Okay, hello, welcome back to 8.2, multiplying, dividing rational expressions. We're in 3 videos into this and we haven't even started multiplying yet. We're still simplifying rational expressions by using the reduce word or the cancel. Now, the rational expressions that we're going to use in this example at first are not going to seem like anything is going to reduce. Nothing's going to simplify. But we're going to use an important skill. We're going to simplify by factoring out -1. And I'm just going to write it over here to the side. What does that mean? Okay, so -1 is the opposite of 1. And I know you're thinking, duh. But it also does something else. -1 times any other number, let's say -1 times 5, gives me the opposite of that number. Okay, so you're probably still good with that. Well, what happens if I have -1 times a variable, an x, okay, but a variable? Well, it gives me the opposite of that. And again, that looks the same. The only difference is that this might already be negative. I don't know what x is. If x equals -3, then the opposite of -3 becomes +3. Okay, so we're leveling up. But what happens if I do this? And I just need some space here. -1 times, let's say, x plus 7. I don't have enough room here. I thought I did, but it's okay. This becomes -1 times x, which is the opposite of x, and -1 times 7, which is the opposite of 7. All right, that's the derivative property. That makes sense. But check this out. What I actually want to do here, I'm not multiplying I'm not multiplying. I am going to be multiplying, I'm sorry. But I'm not going to be using multiplying to simplify. I'm going to be factoring, which is the opposite of multiplying. So I'm actually going to go this way. I'm going to have -x subtract 7, and that's going to factor out a -1 and just get -1 times x plus 7. Okay? What if I do this? -1 times x subtract 4. -1 times x is -x. -1 times -4 is going to be +4. And if I multiply, it goes that way. And if I factor, it goes that way. So what happens if I get this, but I want that? I factor out a -1. That's the whole point of this. I got 2x subtract x squared divided by x squared subtract x subtract 2. All right, I'm going to give you a big clue. Always put your polynomials in what we call standard form. And you've seen this before. It's something we do in Algebra 1. Standard form means start with the highest exponent first, the term with the highest exponent, and then move your way down. The last time we did it was in Chapter 6 when we did the fundamental theorem of algebra section, where we had to put our polynomials in standard form. So I'm just going to rewrite this like this. I'm going to change these two, the position of these two. So I get -x squared plus 2x. And I didn't do anything to the bottom. Okay, so now standard form. That's all that is. Now I'm going to factor in the top. If I factor in the top, it looks like I got a common factor of x. So this is x times -x plus 2. In the denominator, what two numbers multiply to give -2 but add to give -1? That's going to be x subtract 2 times x plus 1. Okay, I'm stuck. I don't have a common factor. But actually, these two look very similar. This is -x plus 2. Instead of -x, I got +x. Instead of +2, I got -2. They are the same factor if I also, they are the same if I also factor out a -1. So what I really should have done is not factor out an x. I should have factored out a -x. That's negative 1 times x, just like I did up here. If I did what came out of this one, negative x times the other x equals negative x squared. And this is where it gets tricky. Negative x times negative 2 equals positive 2x, because a negative times a negative equals a positive. My denominator is still the same, so I get x subtract 2 times x plus 1. And now these two, the x minus 2 and the x minus 2, these two are going to simplify, cancel, reduce, whatever you want to call it. And this finally leaves me with the negative x and the x plus 1 in the denominator. And the x's are not going to reduce or simplify anything else because I'm adding 1. That's going to change things. Okay, so this shows that if we don't get the same thing, but they look very close, they are the same except the signs are switched, factor out a negative 1. Also, what values are the expression undefined? If x equals 2, I get 2 minus 2, so don't let x equal 2. And if x equals negative 1, I get undefined, so don't let it equal negative 1. Okay, let's do a couple more. And of course, as always, pause, rewind, do what you need to do, ask questions in the discussion. Okay, spoiler alert, I got a negative here, and when I factor the bottom, I'm not going to have a negative x when I factor this denominator. So in the top, I'm gonna factor out the negative x. So I'm gonna get negative x times the other x plus 3. Factoring out the negative switches that from negative to positive, switches that from positive to negative. Whoops. All right. Negative. Oops. I'll try to remember that. Okay. Now, the denominator, all right, same thing. I'm going to just, usually I would like grab another sheet of paper or something. I'm going to come down here at the bottom. 2 times 3 is 6. The negative 7 goes here. This is what two numbers multiply to give positive 6, add to give negative 7. That's negative 6 and negative 1. Make my multiplication chart. 2x squared and 3 go here and here. Negative 6 and negative 1 go here and here. And if I factor, let's see, I get, left out my x's. I get 2x, x, and negative 3. And this one's going to be, I can factor out a 1, but I want to change the sign, so it's going to be negative 1. So I get 2x subtract 1 times x subtract 3, which is nice because now that is the same as that. And I get negative x over 2x subtract 1. And what's going to make the denominator go to 0? Well, if x equals 1/2, 2 times 1/2 is 1, 1 minus 1 equals 0, so don't let that happen. And if x equals 3, same thing happens. All right, last one for this video. I get 10 subtract 2x over x subtract 5. I'm going to turn this around and get negative 2x plus 10. Because the term with the x is negative, that means I'm going to factor out a negative, or probably, x subtract 5. In the numerator, they have a common factor of 2. So this is going to be negative 2 times x subtract 5. Why is it subtract 5? Because negative 2 times negative 5 gives me my positive 10. Also, why is it subtract 5? Because that's what I have down here. The x minus 5s are going to reduce, cancel, simplify. And this just gives me negative 2. That's just another way of saying negative 2. And by the way, you can't let x equal 5 because 5 subtract 5 would be 0. All right, we'll see you in the next video.